My name is Eddie Jaco. I'm born on the 14th, the 4th, 1920 in Germany.
In 1939, when war broke out, it was dangerous to be outside in the streets because we were abused, we were spat at, and even beaten up at times.
Of course, when you're 11, I mean any age, I was crying all the time. I said, they take away your father, your mother, your brother. I was crying all the time.
We had no strength left, and it was really just, we had to get over it, finish, like so many other things, get over it.
We wanted to wait till the children were at an age where they could really understand it. So when they were about 13 and 16, we came for a visit, and we were lucky enough to be shown around by a survivor who was Marika.
Then the children were growing up. We never spoke to them for a long time till they could understand, because we didn't want them to feel guilty.
That story, the past, has no ending until we leave. We have to talk about it because it's important to pass on that message.
My mother was the eldest of 7 children, my father the youngest of 5, except one brother. They were all killed. And my father, he has no grave, and I feel when I talk to the children, I'm saying a prayer to them. I'm telling the story and remembering them.
My son came here with his school and came back home really in a state of shock. And I said, why are you shocked? You always knew. He said, no, Mum, you don't understand. I didn't know. Until he heard the voices, not just the actual people, but the recorded voices. He did not know.
Then when the museum opened, I have decided that it's so important as a survivor for me to be able to tell what actually happened.
It's very easy to know names and dates and think you know the history. But when you read something as a story, then you are there, you are part of it, you feel it. The few hours they spend here, that is going to be one of the most important things that happens to them in their lives.
We come twice a year to the Jewish Museum for our Year 10 mandatory history excursion, and the course is really just designed to make better Australian citizens. And we see this excursion as part of that broader program where they're not all going to leave here being wonderful historians, but we want them to be good Australians, and we want them to empathise and to relate and understand their history and other people's histories.
Eddie and I met when I was 14. Eddie came wearing his suit, and he was wearing his badge that says Zachor, which means remember. And I had the same badge, and I said to him, Eddie, I have the same badge as you. And so only then, after a few months of knowing Eddie, did I go and hear him speak.
Children have to have a sense of empathy and understanding about where all this is coming from. And so coming to somewhere like the Sydney Jewish Museum and speaking to survivors, seeing the artefacts, the evidence, really makes it real and come alive to them. So when you visit the Sydney Jewish Museum, the Holocaust is not just a piece of history. History comes to life.
After Mike died, my eldest son, he was 25 and he was killed in Afghanistan. I was just devastated, and I thought, oh, how am I ever going to get a group? And I came up to the museum and just sat in the children's room with that little fountain and all those shoes and just sobbed and realised how lucky I was that I'd had my son right up to adulthood, and it was his decision. It hadn't been taken away from me, and I wasn't in a position where, yes, I felt I couldn't protect him, but still it was very different, and I was in a very different position from all those mothers who just had their children literally ripped out of their arms.
When we were hearing about Jackie's story, we also heard about other people's stories.
Well, I think even though it is an uncomfortable topic, it is very important that we do tell others, because if we don't, then the same thing or even worse atrocities could happen again.
As time goes by, obviously the opportunity to hear that is leaving us, and so all the different ways in which it gets recorded here and passed on here are really, really important.
I think the importance of the museum really centres around social justice. It's about children and adults learning about what happens, what are the consequences if we don't have integration in our society, if we don't learn about or ostracise people because they have a different faith or culture. It's a lesson that needs to be learned by everyone. And also I think we need to never forget the price that we've paid to get this lesson.
There is nowhere that has the impact. There is nowhere with such cross-cultural power as actually coming here.
And now I hope it will be here forever, because it is necessary.
I think it's our duty to share it with our children and with their children, and to make sure we keep the story alive.